Hello everybody, I'm going to do a video tutorial series on do-it-yourself landscaping. So we're going to start off with just a basic bungalow. As you can see, I'm going to do this through a 3D program just to simplify things and give you guys as much information as we possibly can. So we're going to go ahead and add a driveway to this, because I'm assuming that everybody has a driveway. We'll do a 56-foot driveway, 22 feet across, and we'll close it. What I would consider doing, especially nowadays, is putting it in a walkway that is relatively modern. People are not so much into having the rounded shapes anymore, so we're going to put in a walkway that's going to suit something a little bit more modern. We're going to slide that in there, take that off the driveway, and we're going to select a different type of stone. Now when you're looking for different types of stone or stone to be able to do your front walkway, there's tons of places where you can buy your products. Be careful what you do buy as far as thickness goes, because that really does make a jump in the cost. I'm going to use Windermere Smooth, which is a Unilog product, and I'm just going to do that there like that. And then I'm going to cover the porch. Sorry, I'm going to cover the porch with a flagstone or something a little bit. As far as that goes, in natural stone, if you want to do natural stone, is fairly basic. As a do-it-yourselfer, what you're going to need to do is dig out the base and put in a proper granular base, and then what we use for underneath, just before we lay the stone, is put in what's called high performance base. You lay that down and tamp it, and then once you have everything leveled, then you can lay the stone on top. So here we have an area which would be nice to dress up, and of course we have this area that we want to dress up, but we want to make sure that when we do that, we're not going to cover up the windows to stop the light from coming in. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind is the sunlight. So depending on which way your house faces, let's say that your house faces north, so you're going to have sunlight that comes from this way to this way, which means that there's going to be ample sun going across your property. If your house faces east, you're going to have afternoon shade, which gives you a whole different perspective on plant material that you're going to choose, because you want to make sure that plants are going to grow where you're going to put them. You can't put shade tolerant plant material in full sunlight and vice versa. It's not going to work. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this island bed in front of a bay window. So this is going to be probably your living room, and we're going to go and we're going to go ahead and put in soil. So when you're doing soil for your beds, triple mix is what we always use. It's good to remove existing clay and that sort of thing, because plants are not going to do well in that. So I would, if I were you, remove some of that and put in a good triple mix soil. So once you have the triple mix soil in, you can go ahead and do the planting, and then afterwards we're going to top it off with mulch. So we're going to, in this case here, I'm going to put in some plants that would suit this property. So I'm going to choose something a little bit tall on the outskirts, and give you something that's going to give you some flower on the inside. So let me choose, let's just choose a cedar here, for example, and we're going to choose another cedar for this point right here. Okay, so we have something to kind of surround the bay window. You don't want to put anything too tall underneath the bay window, because that's going to cause problems later on. So what I would recommend is that if you want to put a backdrop, for example, I'm going to put in something along the lines of a boxwood. So let's go find a boxwood. And again, boxwoods they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, so be careful when you go to the garden center to be a little bit selective when you're picking out a boxwood, little velvet or something that's not going to grow higher than the window. So it might be a good idea to measure the height of, or the distance from the ground up to the window. In this program I have the luxury of choosing the sizes and whatnot. So we're going to do something along this line. Okay, so look at the maximum height of the plant material that you're going to choose and make sure that it's not going to impede over top of the window. So boxwoods need to be maintained to a certain degree. You're going to clip them if you have like a little green velvet or a green gem, for that matter. You can keep them in check fairly easy, just like that. So now you also have a nice backdrop in the winter time. It's not going to look so blah. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some nice flowering shrubs. So in this case, we're going to go to do a nice little hydrangea. So we're going to take the hydrangea. Again, pick something that's not going to get too crazy big. Hydrangeas are great. I mean, they're my go-to plant. They look good almost all summer long, and they start blooming late spring, and they'll bloom right until the winter time in most cases. So pick a nice hydrangea that is going to suit the brick of the house. You can pick from lime green to white to red to, I mean, blues. There's so many different kinds and different styles that you can purchase. So like I said, a hydrangea is always a nice go-to plant, and in the winter time it's going to look basically just like a bunch of sticks, right? So you're not going to have something that's going to look really good in the winter time, but that's what we have this evergreen backdrop for. Alright, so we're going to just keep this to the 3, and then we're going to fill in a base plant right along here, and I'm going to choose something along the lines of let's put in a hosta, for example. So you can put in a nice row of hostas, or if you want to add some color, you can always add in some daylilies, that sort of thing. But in this case, I'm just going to use hostas just to kind of fill this area in. And we've got this little pocket here, and I want to put in something a little bit unique. So let's put in something that's fairly low growing, and I'm going to do something along the lines of the Japanese forest grass. Oops, where do we go here? Pick this one, I think. Yeah, so we're going to take the Japanese forest grass, and we're going to put in a bunch of them. Looks like I picked the oops. Here we go. So now we have something that's got a nice little look to it, a little bit modern, a little bit old fashioned style, and this is, we can change these up if you want to do something in, for example, bobo hydrangea or bombshell hydrangea. You can change these up as well. Bobo is probably more suited for a house like this because it's smaller. And then we have this area here that we're going to also dress up. Now, depending on how close your neighbor is going to determine whether you need privacy or not. But let's plop in another house and take a look, see what happens here. So we're going to drop this house right here. All right, it's fairly close to you. So what you might want to consider is putting in a privacy panel. Let's put in a privacy panel so that we can add a little bit of privacy to our property. Okay, you might want to be just a little bit away from your property line, and we'll put in a couple of panels just so that you have a nice little backdrop. Okay, and if you want to get in, if you have to get in through here, then I would recommend maybe putting in stepping stones to get there. But if you don't, you might want to take and put in a nice columnar tree, something that I don't know where all my plants went. Hang on. We can go to cut the original trees. To ultra. We'll put in a beech. So in this case here, you may want to put in some sort of a pyramidal beech, kind of like that. And we'll keep these panels right there as a backdrop. But we're going to create a planting bed that's going to give you some really nice color in the front on this side of your house. So I'm just going to add a planting bed that goes from the corner of that, and we'll add mulch. So there you have a nice little planting bed. We pull this out to the edge of the walkway so it's easy to cut your grass. And there we have a new planting bed that we're going to dress up. So if you want to match the right side of your property on the front, we can go ahead and do the same thing. We can add some hydrangeas, but we're going to choose something that's a little bit different color. So in this case, we're going to pick a pink. So like that. So we're going to pick the pink. We're going to drop 3 more. Yeah, I like that. 3 more pink hydrangeas in here. And if you really like the idea of the privacy panels and you want to do something along the lines of a vine, you can always put up, again, depending on which way your shade is, you can put in some sort of a vine. We can put a nice clematis up here. You can have a nice little pink clematis, or you can so that'll give you something nice to grow up against the back there. Now that we got these 2 windows, and I know what it's like to live in a side split, so I've had this before too. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put something that's very low growing. You have a couple of options for that, unless you want to have something that's going to be nice looking from the bay window, but it is going to hamper the light. In a case like that, what you want to do is you want to pull in something along the lines of some sort of a low-growing shrub. You could be like a tom thumb cotoneaster, for example. Okay, you might want to do a couple of those just to kind of give you greenery but not block the window. And then in this point here, we can again put something a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull something in there. You can go evergreen, or you can go with deciduous shrub. In this case, I'm going to go with Japanese purus. It's both. Well, it's not both. It's an evergreen, broadleafed evergreen, and it will give you some spectacular flowers. And on the new growth, the leaves are bright red, right here. So these are really nice. These are really nice shrubs, and they will look really nice for and in a location like that. In fact, I'm going to use one over here as well, just to kind of balance things out. So now you're kind of away from the window a little bit. Maybe we'll do a little bit more of the low-growing shrubs, like that. And then we're going to add some nice funky plant material like ornamental grasses. I love ornamental grasses, so let's go to what's called a Carl Forster grass. We could put in the Carl Forster grass right up along the edge here, and we can also do a nice little border of ornamental grasses. Let's do a blue stem or something like that. We'll do one of these. So you can get a little, like little prairie or standing ovation or something like that as far as an ornamental grass goes. And we're just gonna wrap it up there like that, and then we're going to add some flowers and whatnot in here. So we can look at doing some astilbe, for example. Astilbes are great, and they'll give you some nice, it's a perennial, so you don't have to plant it over and over again. And we're going to do a mass planting of the astilbe. So when you go to your garden center, you might want to have a look at the sizes that are available. There are some that grow quite tall and have a pretty heavy flower, and there's some that grow very tiny, kind of like little petite things. I'm going to change this a little bit. Bring this up around here, because I want to do something a little bit different over here. So I'll take these guys here like that. I'll take this guy and move him up to the fence. So he can probably grow pretty tall, which doesn't really matter. An ornamental grass like Carl Forster, you can keep them where they are and let them, even when they die back in the wintertime, they're nice to look at because they kind of sway in the wind, and there's really not a lot going on in the garden. So Carl Forster is kind of nice, and then in the springtime that you cut it right down to the ground and new shoots come up. So we're going to edit that a little bit. Bring that over here. So we have a nice edge there. And then we have something here that we can put in some nice flowers as well. In this case, I'm going to choose daylilies and put in a bunch of daylilies. Some people don't like daylilies anymore, but I love them because they seem to be everywhere, but they're nice because they fill out so nicely, and they can really expand the mass planting. And if you want to, on a budget, you can always split these off in the spring and you can, if you're on a budget and you want to save on half the plants of these perennials here, you can just split these off and then plant them as time goes on. Okay. So we're going to take that and we're going to plant these like that. Let's come along nicely here. So I just noticed something that we should really do, and that's pull these plants away from the house a little bit because of the overhang, just like that. There we go, like that. So we have an overhang here, which is probably the driest part of the property. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take and we're going to put in a band of riverstone just to kind of finish it off and make it look good. So now we have a nice clean look, like right there. We got a nice border plant. We got some nice specimen plants, i.e. the astilbe. We got the low growing plants in front of the window. It all matches up very nice, and you're going to be super happy with this because it's not a lot to maintain. Okay. There you have it. Another thing that you probably want to do, if your city doesn't already do it for you, is to have a nice tree in the front yard. Be very selective about what you want. Check to make sure that your maintenance level is going to be high enough to handle something like a Japanese maple, or sugar maple, for example. The other option is going evergreen. You can add an evergreen to your front yard, and they don't have to be big when you first buy them, but you can also get them brought in with a tree spade if you're a little bit impatient for them to grow. But in this case, I'm going to add a oak. Here we go. So we're going to have pin oak, lovely tree. You might want to put it off to the side of the house a little bit to give you privacy through, this might be bedroom windows, whatever. Or you might want to put it right here because you want to block off the street view. So there you have it. We're going to do a quick walkthrough and see what it looks like and once it's rendered. And there you have it. So that's your curb appeal. If you're on a budget, like I said, this is a very budget-friendly kind of landscape. Perennials they don't cost a lot. The only thing that would be quite expensive would be the size of the tree. So if you're going to pick a tree that's quite large, yes, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But for a few $100, you can plant this up. Make sure that you dig the soil deep enough and put in proper topsoil, triple mix topsoil. And then once you're finished planting, then you can add a layer of mulch on top. Don't put landscape fabric underneath the mulch because the mulch itself will turn into soil itself. So there's no sense putting in mulch under or fabric underneath mulch. I hope this helps. Any questions, give me a call. If you like, hit the like button or subscribe, and I'll add more videos as time goes on. Again, it's Fred from landscapingadvisors.ca.